20-something years ago, those cold nights in December, and the sound of the falling snow, the fireplace warming us, the VHS movie box, your old broke down touring bus, and not a single cloud in the sky.
Hi guys, how you doing? Welcome to another vlog. Yes, this is another sourdough video. I'm making this one because this is actually the revised version of my previous one. So if you follow this video, it should give you much better sourdough bread at the end as if you follow my last video. So the first thing that we have to do is to prepare the starter, which should be ready in about 5 hours. So this is my active starter. I'm using 30 grams of really active starter, 70 grams of cool boiled water, mix it very well, and then you put in 70 grams of rye flour. And by the way, this is how I normally feed my starter on a daily. I find using a bowl is a lot easier to mix all the ingredients. I used to do it directly in the glass, but it's not much room and it's a little bit too deep to mix easily. So yeah, I mix it in the bowl and then put it into the glass. I always mark the top of my starter with my Sharpie pen. Some people use rubber band, but I just use Sharpie. And I always put the time of when I made this, so I can check again in about 3 hours to see the progress. And then put it in a warm spot in your house, in my case next to my lamp. Now it's time to prepare the bread dough. You need 375 grams of cool boiled water. Don't use tap water, guys. And then 500 grams of bread flour. I use the brand Defiance, but make sure you use bread flour though, not plain or all-purpose flour. They're not strong enough. So you mix this together and then let it rest for about 30 minutes up to about 4 hours. And now you wait for your starter to be ready, which is normally just over double for me. And then it's time to put it into the dough. And you have to record the time of when you're doing this, because that's when the bulk fermentation has started. For me it's 3:30. Mix it really well for about 3 to 4 minutes and then rest it for 10 minutes. And then you can add the salt and then mix it very well again for about 3 minutes to 4 minutes again, because you don't want salty bits in part of your dough. You want them evenly distributed. And then you rest it for 20 minutes this time. And then after that, it's time to do your stretch and fold in the bowl. So with the wet hand, I'm grabbing the bottom part of the dough and stretching it as far as I can without tearing the dough. You can be a bit rough as this is the beginning of the bulk fermentation, but you can't be this rough later on in the process. Now take a sample dough and put it into a sugar glass so you can monitor the rise of your dough easily. I got this trick from another YouTuber called Bread Code, and his name is Hendrix. So thanks, Hendrix. And then rest it for 20 minutes. And then after that, it's time to do the bench fold. So you want to wet your bench scraper, wet your hand, and then wet the bench a little bit. And then tip the dough onto the bench. And now to do the bench fold, which is basically like stretch and fold but on the bench. So it's a little bit more powerful, I think. So you stretch it from all directions and then fold it onto itself. So you keep stretching them from all directions until the dough started to resist and not as elastic anymore, like that. So this is when you stop. And then I just like to neaten the dough So make sure the smooth side is on the top. You can cover it with a glass container like I do, or you can use wet kitchen towel. And now it's time to rest your dough for 20 more minutes. After the 20 minutes, it's time to do the lamination. I know it seems like there's a lot of mucking around and so many steps that you have to do during this bulk fermentation time, but from experience, I would recommend that you don't skip any of these steps, because as you know, sourdough is not cooked in a loaf pan. It's cooked freestanding, so it needs to be able to support itself. That's why it's very important to have your gluten strong. And my tip with lamination is make sure you stretch all part of your dough, not just the edges, the middle as well. At this point is when you want to add your inclusion to your sourdough. If you want to add anything, seeds, caramelized onion, like that picture, and then you fold it and then you roll it up. I make sourdough with caramelized onion the other day, and it turns out to be the best and softest sourdough I've ever made. So I would highly recommend that you do that if you want to try. Anyway, so I'm splitting my dough in half and I've put it in a separate Pyrex dish. The reason is because I want to do the coil folds for this dough separately, because I don't like cutting it at the end of the coil fold process. I feel like I'm disturbing the good job that the dough has been doing rising to its maximum size. Now this is time to do the first coil folds after the 30 minutes rest, of course. So with the wet hands, just lift up the one side of the dough, turn it around, and then fold the other side. See how stretchy it is? Because it's only your first coil fold, but later on it should be less stretchy. It'll still be stretchy, but it'll be less stretchy as you go along. For this particular bake, I had to do 6 rounds of coil folds. Now it's time to rest it for 30 minutes. I've decided to put it inside a grill oven that's turned off, so there's no heat, and with the lights on. And then now to do the second coil folds after 30 minutes rest. Do the same thing again. Make sure your hand is wet, otherwise it's a nightmare. See, as you can see, it's not as stretchy. It's still stretchy, but it's less stretchy than the one before. So I'm speeding up the coil folding for the second dough because it's a little bit boring otherwise. And then it's time to rest the dough again. This time it's for 45 minutes. It's a little bit longer rest this time because your dough is getting stronger. Now it's time to do the third coil folds. So same thing again. See, look how not stretchy it is now. It's looking really good right now. It's getting late, it's 7 o'clock. That's why I put it in the grilled oven, because the weather is a little bit cooler out on the bench. So in here it's actually 28 degrees because I've got the lights on. And then now to do the fourth coil fold. Again, notice how not very stretchy the dough is. It's becoming stronger. Now this is the fifth coil fold, which is the last one, and you can see from your sample dough that it has risen 50%. Okay, so you rested for 30 minutes. And after the 30 minutes, it's now time to shape your dough. See, at this time you can see from the sample dough it has risen about 75%. Now it's time to look for the sign to see if your dough is ready for shaping. So you can see a lot of bubbles on the top and a lot of little bubbles on the side of the Pyrex dish and on the bottom as well. When you see all that, that means you're ready to shape it. Now I prepared a Benetton by lining it with a shower cap and then sprinkle some rice flour so that the dough doesn't stick to it. This is just normal flour. I put some on the bench and some on top of the dough before I tip it upside down. It should come out quite quickly and the dough should not stretch too much on the bench. It should just be able to retain its shape. And then you fold it 2/3 of the way and then you close it and then you roll it towards yourself as always. Do it confidently, don't hesitate it, and then you seal the sides just for a nicer looking loaf at the end, and then you flip it upside down so the seam is at the top, and then you carefully lift it up and put it on your Benetton. Don't forget to put more rice flour so that there's no sticky part. And doing the same thing for the second dough. After you shape and put your dough in a Benetton, cover it and then bench rest it again for 30 minutes. During this time, it should rise a little bit more, but not a lot. After the 30 minutes rest, you want to do the finger poke test. So you poke the dough and it should fill up the hole very slowly. If it does, then your dough is ready for the fridge to retard overnight. And then I'll go to bed. Good night. It's 5 a.m. in the morning. The first thing I do is preheat the oven to 250 degrees Celsius on the fan force setting. Don't forget the Dutch oven as well, guys. And then I prepare the baking sheets. I make it so that it has a handle on both sides, like so. So it's easy to lift it into the Dutch oven. So when your oven and your Dutch oven has finished preheating, you get the dough out of the fridge and get all your tools. I got the lamb there and the rice flour sprinkles and a glass of water nearby because you have to do this really quickly, guys. So I tip the dough upside down slowly and sprinkle some rice flour for looks and then put some decoration. I'm making leaves here. Okay, now it's a really important one if you want to have a good looking sourdough with a nice oven spring. So you need to score your dough so the steam can escape through this scored area. You have to score it quite deep. So I usually go over it about 3 times. Oh, don't forget to hold your knife in a 45-degree angle when scoring. And after scoring, flick up the top flap. And then put it into the Dutch oven. And then you cook it with the lid on for 25 minutes. After the 25 minutes, take the lid off. Reduce the temperature to 230. And cook it for 18 minutes more. Until it's brown, basically. And this is the moment that we all been waiting for. You end up with a beautiful and soft open crumb sourdough. Enjoy the montage.
20-something years ago, those cold nights in December, and the sound of the falling snow, the fireplace warming us, the VHS movie box, your old broke down touring bus, and not a single cloud in the sky. If I could go back in time, I'd pack my bags right now. If I could play back, rewind, I wouldn't think twice. A pair of jeans and a dusty shirt, we didn't have a dime. No, you and me were poor as dirt, all we had was time.